I'm going to show you several different triangles here. There's 3 in this example, although the homework problem you're working on may only have 1. But in this example, we're going to go through sine, cosine, tangent, how to use these functions to determine the missing side of a triangle in these 3 different scenarios. So I know it's a little small on the screen. Let me just zoom in for you here, and we'll work through this first one. So it says we've got a triangle. The missing side is D. Use something about SOHCAHTOA to figure out the side length of D. Now we've got some other information, right? 48 degrees, 6.76. I want to talk about the relationship between these sides right here and this angle up here. What's the relationship between those? In other words, are they opposite, adjacent, and so on? So I'm going to label this one. Let me get my pen back here. I'm going to label this opposite because it is a side that is furthest away from that angle, 48 degrees. And this one over here is going to be adjacent. And this up here is going to be the hypotenuse. See if I can spell today. Okay, so I've got my opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. And I want to rephrase these things in a relationship using sine, cosine, or tangent. Well, which one of those trig functions uses opposite and adjacent? If you remember SOHCAHTOA, it's going to be the tangent, t. So let's write that. Let's say tangent of 48 degrees equals opposite, that's 6.76, divided by adjacent, that's d. And now we just have to use algebra. We're done with the trigonometry. Now we just need to use algebra to get this into a d expression. D equals something. So I'm going to multiply both sides by d. Now I've got d tangent 48 degrees equals 6.76. And then we divide both sides by tangent 48 degrees. Yes, you can do that. So d equals 6.76 divided by tangent 48 degrees. Now sometimes I see students try to split up the tangent and the angle. You can't do that. Tangent and the angle are stuck together. They don't come apart. So there's our answer. Now if you have a calculator, you could turn that into a decimal form, but I think this particular problem wanted it just as a formula. Let's try the next one. I'll go quicker now because we've been through the basics. If I look at that angle and say, what's this 7.51? That's the adjacent side. Okay, and E is my hypotenuse. Well, which one of these things relates adjacent and hypotenuse? That's cosine right there. So my equation will be this. Cosine of 36 degrees equals A over H. Or in other words, 7.51 divided by E. So if I want to find E, I multiply both sides by E. I get E cosine 36 degrees equals 7.51. And now I divide both sides by cosine of 36 degrees. Not by cosine itself, but by the whole thing, cosine of 36 degrees. And that is going to be my answer. Okay, last example. If I've got this angle 33 degrees, you can see that this side over here is opposite, and this is the hypotenuse. Well, which one of these trig functions relates opposite and hypotenuse? It is the sine function. So here's my equation. Sine of 33 degrees equals d over 9.81. And now the trigonometry is done. All that's left is some algebra. So I'm going to multiply each side by 9.81. 9.81 times sine of 33 degrees equals d. This one's actually a little quicker than the other two. I'm just done right here. There's no fraction involved.